seen as terrorism. This has targeted the headquarters or the political office of Hamas during the negotiations. The security forces and civil defense went directly under the directives of His Highness the Emir to address the situation that happened, the attack that took place on 3:46 p.m. and taking care of all those who died or were injured during this attack. We also took all the measures in order to contain the situation. In this regard, we present and express our sincere condolences to the martyr Saad al-Dusri, who died during while he was carrying out his duties in this event. We also pray that all those who died or has been killed will be in the paradise. The state of Qatar is committed to act in a decisive way with anything that would target its territories, and will reserve the rights to retaliate and will take all the needed measures to retaliate. And under the directives of His Highness the Emir, the security of the citizens and the residents is our top priority. And based on that, as of tomorrow, God willing, we will review all the policies and the directives in order to deter such actions and measures in the future so that it cannot happen again. And this will be also the committee will be headed by State Minister Mohammed al-Khalifi, who will take all the needed measures in order to retaliate and to respond to this attack, against this attack. The Israeli attack that took place today in the state of Qatar, we can only call it as state terrorism that is being exerted by someone like Netanyahu, given his attempts and his policies as he tries to threaten the regional security. This is only a clear message to the whole region, and this message says that there is one player, and there's also a disrespect to all the policies and also a violation to the sovereignty of all the countries and the states. Netanyahu said himself that he will reshape the Middle East. Does he mean that he's also going to reshape the Gulf region? I think that we have reached a decisive moment. There should be a retaliation from the whole region in the face of those barbaric actions that only reflects one thing. It reflects the barbarism of this person that is leading the region to, unfortunately, to a point where we cannot address any situation and we cannot repair anything and we cannot work within the frameworks of international laws. He just violates all those international laws. This attack, the targeting was beyond and violating not only international laws but only all morals. We are talking about a mediator state that is hosting formal negotiations in a formal and official mediation and hosting with a delegation from a state that is sending missiles and rockets against another group of a delegation from another state that they are supposed to negotiate with. How can this be morally accepted? We can only call this as treatness and to be cheated on or to be treated in this way and coming from such a person is not surprising. However, this is a systematic behavior coming from a person that is claiming or alleging that they want to stabilize the region, but what he's doing is only destabilizing the region for his own and personal goals. During the last days, the negotiations were ongoing, and it was on track upon the request of the American or the U.S. side, as we were deciding on reviewing the final paper that was received from the U.S. side. And despite this, and despite that Israel was sending their delegation, they worked on not keeping any possibility to reach any deal. Is there any clearer message that the world needs to understand who is closing and shutting the door of peace? Does the international community need any other messages to know who's the bully in the region? The history will record this event, and the international laws should take such incident into consideration. Because working on violating the sovereignty of states without any respect and in a reckless manner, this is something that we should take into consideration, and we should take all the needed measures to counter such behavior. We have worked and open challenge with all the friendly and sisterly countries in order to take all the needed measures.
For what's happened today, but again, what is the role that Qatar will do after the Israeli escalation in this region, and what is the effect on the truce deal or the hostage deal and the talks with Hamas and other, especially Qatar is not playing one role in the region, it's playing many different roles in this area.
I'm sorry, if you are talking specifically about the talks on Gaza, Qatar has spared no effort in order to stop this war, and will do whatever it can to stop this war, to stop this hostility on Gaza. Now, when it comes to the current talks, I don't think there is something valid right now, while after we're seeing such an attack happening like this.
السؤال الثالث الجزيرة الإنجليزية. Rasul Sadar from Al Jazeera English. Sir, has there been any communication between Qatar and the U.S. prior to the attacks, or has there been any warning from the United States conveyed to Qatari officials, or based on your information, has there been any involvement of the United States, whether with the approval or with the knowledge?
We had a very, first of all, the first part of your question, I have just answered it. The attack happened at 3:46. The first call we had from an American official was at 3:56, which is 10 minutes after the attack. And after that, President Trump has spoken with His Highness the Emir. He condemned the attack, and the U.S. government position that they have no knowledge about the attack nor any coordination about it until it started to happen. Now, when they got the alert, when the alert has reached us, that's an information that I don't know right now. What I know that the official channels that we have with the U.S. Got notified by the U.S. after the attack by 10 minutes.
This morning, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military that as Israel was attacking Hamas, which very unfortunately was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. President Trump immediately directed Special Envoy Witkoff to inform the Qataris of the impending attack, which he did. The president views Qatar as a strong ally and friend of the United States and feels very badly about the location of this attack. President Trump wants all of the hostages in Gaza and the bodies of the dead released, and this war to end now. President Trump also spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu after the attack. The Prime Minister told President Trump that he wants to make peace, and quickly. President Trump believes this unfortunate incident could serve as an opportunity for peace. The president also spoke to the Emir and Prime Minister of Qatar and thanked them for their support and friendship to our country. He assured them that such a thing will not happen again on their soil.
Why this attack? Why now? And is it going to cause problems as far as the peace going forward?
Well, good evening, Brett. We certainly hope it will actually advance the efforts for a ceasefire and peace. Yesterday, 6 people were sitting at a bus stop in Jerusalem. They were gunned down, including a pregnant woman. They were killed, fathers, sons, husbands. They were sent, the murderers who killed them were sent by Hamas sitting in Doha. And those Hamas leaders sitting in Doha applauded the murder of 6 innocents. These are the same people who sent the murderers on October 7th to slaughter 1,200 of our citizens. We don't have an issue with the people of Gaza. We don't have an issue with the people of Qatar. We have an issue with the people that leading Hamas. And our Prime Minister has made it very clear from October 7th, those who implemented the slaughter of our citizens will pay the price, the ultimate price. It's important to remember, September 1972, Prime Minister Golda Meir at the time, after the Munich massacre when Palestinian terrorists slaughtered our 11 sportsmen in Munich, she gave an order that everybody responsible for that murder, for that slaughter, would pay the price. And it was carried out by our Mossad, and 13 of those terrorists were eliminated.
Yeah.
Hamas terrorists are on notice. They are going to be eliminated.
Mr. Ambassador, understand that and the history. Obviously, Israel is under attack constantly. In this case, Qatar officials and Hamas leadership is saying that you did not get the targets you were seeking. They are obviously condemning this attack as attacking inside an allied country to the U.S. The U.S. here at the White House expressing concern that it did not advance the goals of the U.S. or Israel, and you have the Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, with very pointed statements in condemnation. So did you get the targets you were seeking?
If we didn't get them this time, we'll get them the next time. Israel under Prime Minister Netanyahu is changing the face of the Middle East. We have degraded Hezbollah, we've degraded Hamas, the Houthis, and Iran, the head of the snake that's leading these proxies in an effort to destroy Israel. When we defeat these proxies of Iran, when we defeat Islamic extremism, and actually that will benefit our neighbors in the region who are moderate and want to live in a state of peace with us. So right now we may be subject to a little bit of criticism. They'll get over it. And Israel is being changed for the better. The region is being changed for the better as we remove these enemies of peace and these enemies of Western civilization from their ability to implement terrorism.
Mr. Ambassador, what about the charge that this is a violation of the sovereignty of the state of Qatar, and that anybody who is negotiating with you potentially is a target if they are in the process of negotiation and don't agree to the terms at that moment?
Come on, Brett.
I'm just saying what they're saying.
Yeah. Well, you know, this has been going on for months and months and months. And in the meantime, our hostages are being starved in the tunnels of Hamas in Gaza. They can end this now, this moment. They can lay down their weapons like Arafat did in Lebanon in 1982 and leave. And this can be over. We want this war to be over. We want to implement a ceasefire in which everybody will benefit. But we're not going to live with jihadis on our border anymore. That's over. These people are murderous thugs. Imagine just MS-13 taking over a neighborhood here in the United States and then negotiating with them after they hold hostages in tunnels. This is something that is absolutely unacceptable in human terms, in simple human moral terms. This is going to be over when Hamas is eliminated. And they're put on notice. The Prime Minister put them on notice. Yeah. Wherever they are, whenever they are on notice. They are not going to survive what they did on October 7th, 2023.
Just to be clear, I was reading from statements from Saudi Arabia, from the Gulf states, but also from here in the White House, Mr. Ambassador. And they say, they agree, eliminating Hamas, who profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. However, they started with unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign sovereign nation and a close ally of the United States, working hard and bravely taking risks to broker peace, does not advance the goals of Israel or the U.S. Your response to that?
Well, the spokeswoman for the White House, Caroline Leavitt, addressed that in her deft fashion, and I won't relate to conversations that took place between the White House and Israel. What I will relate to is the fact that we are united. We've never had a better friend in the White House than President Trump, and we're united in the effort of eliminating Hamas as being a threat to peace in the Middle East. We have acted together in the past, we'll act together in the future, and I think the administration understands full well that Israel is being threatened with her very existence from organizations like Hamas. We've degraded those proxies of Iran, we'll continue to degrade them, and we're going to change the Middle East for the better and ultimately bring peace and destroy this idea that Israel can be destroyed.
And quickly, was President Trump alerted before the attack took place?
You know, there's an ongoing relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Personally, I can tell you that myself and my colleagues are in daily contact with the White House. What exactly took place over the past 24 hours is not something to be discussed publicly. I think you have that related to by the White House spokeswoman, and I'm going to leave it at that. I'm just going to state emphatically that the White House understands our conviction that Hamas is to be destroyed. The president just said the other day that they have to release the hostages now and end the war now, otherwise it's not going to be good. Well, they saw what not good is this morning.
Mr. Ambassador, we always appreciate you coming on and answering the questions from all sides. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett. Good evening.
International law starts with the duty to defend your citizens, and I want to say that international law does not provide immunity for ARC terrorists and the masterminds of terror attacks wherever they are. We'll get to any terrorist wherever he may be.
Well, in fact, international law is very explicit. No state may attack another without Security Council approval or a case of direct self-defense. So, frankly, you didn't seek any of those approvals. You've gone into sovereign territory, crossed the skies and launched this strike on a sovereign state.
You know, when the U.S. went out and took out Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, they didn't notify Pakistan in advance. That was also a sovereign country. You have to do this in order to eradicate terror. These are the people who control Hamas in Gaza, control Hamas in Israel. They are responsible for yesterday's attack, where Hamas took responsibility for the killing of 6 civilians in Jerusalem at a bus station. So a terrorist is still a terrorist, even if he sips tea at a 5-star hotel in Doha.
So you're saying basically that sovereignty is negotiable. International law is just a thing of paper. Diplomacy, these sorts of things don't actually matter, because we know that for the last 20 plus months since October 7, Israeli officials have traveled to Doha a number of times, sat in hotels where Hamas was in another wing of that hotel and negotiated with their Qatari counterparts. How can they now trust Israel?
I don't need them to trust Israel. Qatar is a terror state. Doha is a terror capital. And we know that for the past 25 years, they've been planning terror attacks from Doha. They've been acting them. They've been sponsoring terror and funneling billions of dollars to Muslim Brotherhood terrorists and to Quds terrorists of the Shiite. They're the only ones who support financially both Shiite and Sunnite terror. So I don't need their approval. I don't need them to love me. I need to protect our people.
Well, the United States, they're an ally of the United States. They have, the US has military bases in Qatar. And frankly, as far as keeping terrorists there, it was the United States under President Barack Obama who asked the government of Qatar and the Emir of Qatar to have the Hamas office there. So pointing the finger of blame at Qatar in this instance for housing Hamas, when it was in fact the US president who asked them to do that.
No, but I'm talking about much more than just harboring. I'm telling you that, first of all, we attacked Hamas. Hamas is our target. We didn't attack the Qatari leadership or anything of that sort. But I want to be very clear that If you take responsibility yesterday for killing 6 citizens, you're not immune just because you're at another location. You can't kill Israelis. You can no longer kill Jews and think that you can get away with it wherever you may be.
So, Mr. Bennett, when the US president tells the Emir of Qatar or attempts to, reassure him that this kind of thing won't happen again, are you saying he's in fact lying?
No, that's what you're saying. I'm not saying that.
No, he's told the Emir of Qatar this is not going to happen again. You're saying wherever Hamas is, we're going to go after them. So you would attack Qatar again?
I'm not going to say what we're going to do or not going to do. I will tell every terrorist on earth
in the last few minutes. You said we will do it again.
Let me be clear. Any terrorist on earth who's planning to murder Israelis, planning to murder Jews, will be killed if necessary. Nothing will be a safe haven for terrorists who want to murder my people.
And that is the position of the Israeli government, regardless of what the US president is saying, that this won't happen to the Qataris again?
I don't think the U.S. president says that you can go murder Israelis and get away with it. He himself said that these. Let me finish the sentence. President Trump today, after the attack, said through his spokespeople that the Hamas leadership needs to be eradicated.
Israel targeted my country, which is a mediator in the conflict. We condemn the attack on residential buildings where members of Hamas political organization live. This is a flagrant violation of international conventions.
Our solidarity is with the state of Qatar in the face of the illegal bombing by Israel.
We condemn the Israeli attack, which has targeted the state of Qatar.
Israel's state terrorism, which we condemn, spreads to new countries and targets even the mediators. We stand with Qatar.
We also strongly condemn Israel's unlawful and heinous bombing in Qatar.
Violation of sovereignty and international law.
I now give the floor to United Nations Watch.
Mr. President, we have heard a lot about international law from the world's worst violators of international law. It's time to challenge the perpetrators. And so we ask Qatar, if you don't want targeted bombings against terrorists in your capital, why do you harbor terrorists in your capital? Terrorists who are still holding hostages, torturing them, and rejecting peace deals. Why did you host Haniya, Mashal, and Al-Khaya in luxury hotels from where they planned their terror? Why did you back Hamas's Gaza coup in 2007? Why have you funneled billions since then, fueling their terror machine, empowering their 5 wars against Israel? Why did you blame Israel for October 7th, absolving Hamas of massacring 1,200 Israelis, Americans, and others? Why is your state-owned Al Jazeera serving as the terror group's non-stop propaganda arm? Why do you act as a mediator by day and a terror sponsor by night? Mr. President, the record shows Qatar is a state sponsor of terror. The Gulf states said so in 2017 when they suspended ties with Qatar. Now, yesterday, Antonio Guterres and French President Macron condemned Israel. But when the U.S. killed bin Laden in Pakistan, the UN chief at the time celebrated that, quote, justice has been done to such a mastermind of international terrorism. France called it a victory for all democracies. We ask both. How is this different? Now, when Israel captured the Nazi Adolf Eichmann, rescued the hostages at Entebbe, and destroyed Saddam's nuclear reactor, the UN condemned Israel. Each time...
Sorry, I have a point of order. Sorry, a delegation of Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. President. While we believe in constructive engagement with the civil society organizations and value their inputs, we urge you to ensure that no speaker violates the principles and purposes of the UN Charter and the territorial integrity of sovereign member states. We reject casting unfounded accusations and allegations.
Thank you. Points of order are on procedural issues, not on substantive issues. I give the floor back to United Nations Watch for 4 seconds.
Mr. President, Pakistan is another state sponsor of terror.
September 11th. We remember September 11th. On that day, Islamist terrorists committed the worst savagery on American soil since the founding of the United States. We also have a September 11th. We remember October 7th. On that day, Islamist terrorists committed the worst savagery against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. What did America do in the wake of September 11th? It promised to hunt down the terrorists who committed this heinous crime wherever they may be. And it also passed a resolution in the Security Council of the UN 2 weeks later that said governments cannot give harbor to terrorists. Well, yesterday, we acted along those lines. We went after the terrorist masterminds who committed the October 7th massacre. And we did so in Qatar, which gives safe haven. It harbors terrorists. It finances Hamas. It gives its terrorist chieftains sumptuous villas. It gives them everything. So we did exactly what America did when it went after the terrorists, the Al-Qaeda terrorists in Afghanistan, and after they went and killed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Now the various countries of the world condemn Israel. They should be ashamed of themselves. What did they do after America took out Osama bin Laden? Did they say, oh, what a terrible thing was done to Afghanistan or to Pakistan? No, they applauded. They should applaud Israel for standing and up to these same principles and carrying them out. And I say to Qatar and all nations who harbor terrorists, you either expel them or you bring them to justice. Because if you don't, we will.